Today, I want to talk about academic training, or shall we say, the lack of academic training. So, I want you to imagine a scenario where you are allegedly trained for a job, and part of the training for that job is that you do 3 or 4 years or five, in some people's case, of a sort of training apprenticeship. But the training apprenticeship bears no relation to the job you're about to do. So if we were to, take the academic context and make it something else, imagine you were training to be an electrician, but your entire apprenticeship was spent not doing electrics. You were plumbing instead. That's how I sort of think about the academic career. So a PhD is meant to train you into being an academic, but I think anybody that's an academic knows that the PhD doesn't, in fact, train you for academia. It doesn't, right? So what are we supposed to do? We are not trained to become academics. We're trained to do a certain type of research project with supervision. But actually, the academic job, as you all know, is so much more than that. And what I think I see a lot amongst my coaching clients is a couple of things. One, an internalized shame that they should know how to do every aspect of their job. And if they don't, that there's some kind of deficiency going on inside of them. And then, secondly, that asking for help and maybe admitting that some parts of their job might be done a little better than they're currently doing them is some great failure of their abilities or of their imagination. And of course, neither of those things are true. You can't know a thing unless somebody tells you something. Now, some people, it's true, appear to just be able to do it, but that's not true. They've had mentorship. Somebody has told them. Nobody has just intuited the things that I'm about to tell you in this series. And so I wanted to set out some really clear things that you can use as a sort of audit of your own academic skill set to see if there are places that maybe there are areas of your job that you might want to find out a little bit more about how to do those things better, how to do them more efficiently. And then you can use the resources on this channel and inside the podcast to help you be able to master those elements. So when I think about academic job training, there are 6 specific areas that I think all academics should be trained in, but aren't. Okay. And I want to just set these out for you today so that you can use these as a kind of ladder to audit your own practice. And here they are. Okay. So, first of all, the foundation of an academic career is the consistent writing habit. So, what does this mean when I'm saying this? I mean writing without trauma. I mean writing without binge and bust. I mean writing without internalized shame. I mean writing without all of the baggage and barriers that you might carry around with you. So, I mean writing like brushing your teeth, writing like the way you turn up to a class. Okay. Class is scheduled in your diary. You just turn up to it. You don't have all this angst and drama about preparing for the class and getting into the zone. There's none of that. You just do it. Your writing habit, if you have one, will feel like that. You just turn up and you just do it the same way that you would do a class that you've been teaching for many years. So if that's not how writing feels for you, then there is definitely some work to be done on getting a really rock solid writing habit. Why is this the first thing I'm talking about? Because this is the foundation of an academic career. When you don't have a reliable rock solid writing habit that will stay with you regardless of what time of year it is, whether you're grading, you know, whether you have a lot of teaching or you don't have a lot of teaching, whether it's summer or whether it's October. If you don't have that kind of a writing habit, then basically the foundation of the academic career is going to feel a little shaky. So if you are still doing the things you did as a PhD student, which is boom and bust writing, binge writing, needing external accountability, needing writing partners, needing externally set deadlines to drive you into action, then that is the kind of process, I use that term loosely, of writing that is ultimately going to lead to burnout, right? So if you don't have the stable writing habit, this is the first place to work on, because without it, everything else in your life becomes unmanageable. Okay, so that's the first thing. People should be trained in having a solid writing habit. Once you have that, the next thing that you need to think about is the pipeline. So how you choose the projects that you choose to work on, what are the kind of criteria, what are the kinds of things that you should be thinking of when you choose your work, and that you construct a pipeline proactively. In other words, you're not just reacting to whatever request comes your way, but you're actually constructing your own research pipeline, and that you know how to do that. So being able to construct a pipeline is pretty critical to the academic career. Third, and maybe this should be first, but third is workload management. So we all know, your department is understaffed, oversubscribed, there's too many things to do and not enough time to do it. That's a given. And so what do we do? Right? So we might wish and hope that things were different, but they're not. And therefore, workload management and really having good systems of workload management is critical to sustainability as an academic. You cannot wait for the work to magically decrease, because that won't ever happen. So workload management is pretty fundamental. And that is a skill set. It's a skill set that you're not taught. So this is another area to think about when you're looking at your academic career and the things you might want to optimize. Next, ideation training. Pretty fundamental skill. You were never taught it. You weren't taught it on a PhD, and you're probably still doing this really poorly. Now, I have lots to say about ideation training and why this is critical, but I'm not going to cover that in today's video. So ideation training is super important for swift execution of your writing projects. So how you know whether you have good ideation or not, you can think about the following things. Does my idea about my project continually change? Does this continual change elongate the research and reading phase and how long it takes me to execute the project? So if your answer is yes to both of those things, ideation training is something that you might want to think about. Next, better drafting. There are so many ways to draft a paper, and they are not the ways that you have developed as a PhD student. That's just not the way to do it. So I have my 5 drafts to finish model that I teach my clients here at Academic Coach. However you want to go about drafting and however you want to describe it, it needs to be a staged process of production with predictable, clear steps that start and finish at particular staging points. If you don't have a system of drafting that sounds like that, then this might be why writing a paper takes you a very long time. Next, we want to think about how we increase the quality of the work that we're producing. So it's not just about quantity, although we all know that's a part of academia, but how do we take the nascent idea that we might have a draft? How do we really push it to the next level and elevate both our ideas and the execution of our ideas so that we can publish in the best journals, in the best avenues, with the best presses. So, how do we do that? So, these are the 6 areas of training that I think are fundamental to an academic career. And if you sometimes feel a little bit frustrated about how your academic writing is going, I want you to reflect on that list and maybe have a think about the items on that list that you think would move the needle for you. So instead of you're probably thinking, oh, probably all 6, but forget that. Let's think about the one thing that you can turn your attention to that will really move the needle in terms of how you make academic progress, how you make progress in your career, how you make writing something that is just a pleasure and not this, situation that you have to build yourself up to and then struggle to get through it and dread and do outside of your working hours. Which one of those 6 things would move the needle for you the most? I would love to hear. So if you want to drop me some comments on the social or underneath the channel, I would love to hear which one of these 6 you think should be mandatory training inside your own institution.